Still several days away from the college football transfer portal window opening on December 5th, but still tons of news across the country. And Iowa was hit with some big news on Tuesday. We talked earlier on Tuesday morning about the announcement from Alex Padilla that he would be entering the transfer portal. He will be graduating here at Iowa very soon, so he is able to enter the transfer portal before that December 5th date. But Iowa got news later in the same day that offensive lineman Josh Volk would be entering the portal. Josh Volk was part of that 2020 class. The only other offensive lineman in that class that Iowa got was Tyler Ellsbury, who's played quite a bit, actually played kind of second team, first team back and forth this year, ended up being a second team guy throughout the year. I thought played pretty well in the first half of the season. Bright spot in Iowa's struggles up front. But Volk had a hard time seeing the field, played a little bit in 2021 after redshirting that first year, but really just never got in the full swing of things. Not sure if he was dealing with some injuries this year. Last I knew, Kirk Ferentz said he was healthy, but just had not shown up on the depth chart in quite some time. He was a big kid at 6'4", 6'5", about 310 at Iowa, just short of 310 according to Iowa's website. Played at Cedar Rapids Xavier in eastern Iowa, and he had a couple of pretty good offers out of high schools. Offered by Iowa State, was offered by Nebraska. And according to rivals, Michigan State and Minnesota were both in on Josh Volk, along with a number of other schools. But the three schools that offered were Iowa, Iowa State, and Nebraska. Typical Iowa recruit that oftentimes you see succeed at Iowa. Volk decides to leave for whatever reason. My guess is playing time. We don't know. But this announcement does add to the list of attrition issues, just retainment issues, whatever you want to call them, for Iowa with guys up front along that offensive line. We're talking classes of 2018, class of 2019, 2020 now. I mean, let's recap some of this. And this has been widely publicized. I've talked about it during recent segments. In fact, if you missed the video I put out, a couple months ago, I'll throw it up here in this card. You can click on that video, just kind of outlining some of Iowa's struggles with offensive line attrition. But as a brief recap, remember, Cody Ince was a regular part of the interior of that line, had been dealing with injuries. He recently left Iowa, left football, gave up football, I'm assuming because of injuries. Have not heard Cody Ince speak publicly on that, but he left. He gave up football. Jeff Jenkins, another guy that was part of that class in 2018, he left. You've got guys in 2019, one of which being Fensky, who transferred to Colorado. He's a guy that Iowa lost, that it was part of that 2019 class. Justin Britt has been dealing with injuries. Will he be back next year? He could have another year if he wants it. He's had tons of issues with injuries. And again, me bringing this up, not saying that all of these issues are culture issues or problems with keeping guys from transferring, because some of these are injury related, like Justin Britt and Cody Ince. Tyler Indris is a guy who's never really developed. He was a 4-star, 3-star according to rivals, 4-star according to 247 Sports out of Norwalk. Whereas Tyler Indris been, will he stick around for another year? But he has not sniffed the field. Ezra Miller transferred to Nebraska. He's another one. Now you've got Josh Volk in 2020. They have struggled. Those three classes with offensive linemen, they struggled with keeping guys on the field, with keeping guys on the roster. And now Josh Volk leaving, yet another addition to that list. Now, the class of 2021 was strong. I mean, from a rating standpoint, that was a strong offensive lineman class. So you hope that guys like David Cobb, Connor Colby's been playing. We don't know what David Cobb's future is. Guys like Bo Stevens, those guys can continue to progress and kind of put an end or a stopgap to some of those attrition issues that Iowa has suffered from up front. But best of wishes to Josh Volk. He's an Iowa kid. Not sure what his what kind of attention he will generate. Again, want to remind you of this. You need to realize that anybody who enters a portal is eligible to return to that school as long as that school accepts that player back. So technically, Alex Padilla, Josh Volk, they're both Iowa players, both in the portal. Both of those guys could come back. And somebody brought up earlier today, who is going to start in the bowl game if Spencer Petras is out with an injury? My answer to that question is we don't know, because Alex Padilla would be eligible to play in that game. Just because he's entered as a portal does not mean he can't still play for that team. Now, Kirk Ferentz may not do that. I don't know what Kirk Ferentz's attitude towards Alex Padilla and entering the transfer portal is, but there's no reason to believe that Alex Padilla couldn't play if they needed him in whatever bowl game Iowa plays in. I think that'd be a great moment. I would love to see Alex Padilla enter the transfer portal like he already has, and then get a chance to play for Iowa and showcase what he's got, especially if Spencer Petras is out with an injury. Josh Volk, same thing. Obviously, they would need a lot of injuries up front for him to even be a factor. My guess with Josh Volk is we will not see him in an Iowa uniform again. Best wishes wherever he goes. I hope he finds a soft landing spot because, as you and I both know, a lot of these guys that enter the portal, I'm not talking about Iowa guys, but guys, these thousands of guys across the country that enter the portal oftentimes don't find greener grass. Now, some of them do. Iowa needs to be in the portal themselves, looking for an upgraded quarterback, looking for upgrades at wide receiver and along that offensive line. But the bottom line is you hope Josh Volk can find a soft landing because the reality of the transfer portal can sometimes be cruel. So Iowa now with 2 players into the transfer portal. How many more will follow suit? We'll continue to keep our eyes on announcements. And again, the window opening on December 5th, the official transfer portal window opening on December 5th. And we'll get a bowl announcement this Sunday. Plenty of coverage along the way, folks, including this evening, a brand new edition of Brada's Branded Thoughts, where I give you my 5 quarterbacks to watch in the transfer portal early. In other words, 5 guys that Iowa should at least look at here in the early stages of the 2023 transfer portal cycle. Plus, an exclusive interview with future Iowa women's basketball guard Callie Levine coming up this evening. Early release for our premium subscribers Wednesday afternoon, and then a release to the general public later that same evening. Stay tuned. Much more on the way right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.